my channel, Pass the Fog, on dealing with narcissistic abuse. Today I'm going to talk about the smear campaign that the narcissist and his flying monkeys launch against the target and the victim. And I'm going to read a little bit from an article on Facebook, and I'll put the link below for you. The smear campaign. When healthy people feel upset about something, they may get angry at the injustice or whatever. But toxic people don't just get mad. They seethe and wage a devious smear campaign. One of the clearest indicators you've got a mentally unstable person on your hands is smear campaigning. Smear campaigners carefully and strategically use lies, exaggerations, suspicions, and false accusations to try destroying your credibility. I'm going to say this again, they strategically use lies or partial truths. They won't tell the whole truth about a conversation, but they'll spin it so that it looks a certain way to their listeners. Exaggerations. They'll exaggerate something you've done to make you look much worse than you are. Suspicions. This is their paranoia, because some of them have this. And false accusations to try destroying your credibility. And they'll falsely accuse you just to make themselves look good. Even if there's not much evidence for it, they're still going to falsely accuse you, because that's just how, that way they can justify how they've been. It's their way of justifying themselves. So if they can falsely accuse you, then they can say you're the bad person and they look like they're in the good light. They hide behind a cloak of upstanding heroism and feigned innocence in an attempt to make as many people as possible think their efforts are not based on vindictiveness, but on upstanding concern for their target or victim. So they're gonna hide behind a cloak of heroism and feigned innocence. So that's one of the ways you can know that you have a smear campaigner on your hands, is they're going to say that they are innocent, they've done nothing wrong, and they've acted uprightly, while their victim or target has done everything wrong. All right? And they're going to have people think that they're concerned and that they love the victim, which is one of the ways they manipulate their listeners. So they put on this sort of feigned, we are concerned, we love this person, we're praying for this person, and therefore their listeners feel bad for them, and they think that they actually are the victims, when in actuality, the narcissist, sociopaths, do not love or care about you. They are only interested in how they look, okay? And how they looked to their charmed circle. As a smeared person, what you are most likely guilty of is saying no to someone who is, in some way, failing to respect your boundaries, refusing to follow the same rules as everybody else, or someone who is spreading toxicity and manipulating other people. Someone entitled. Someone sneaky and vindictive. Someone who is hurting you or taking too much. So, most likely what you're guilty of, you could be guilty of who knows what. If you've done something wrong, you're most likely going to be admitting it to the narcissist and so forth. But then he's gonna use everything, or she is gonna use everything against you later on. So they're building their arsenal against you. They're throwing it in their bag for later on to build a case against you that's unfair, without telling people what they did wrong. They're gonna conveniently leave that out so that they look like the victims, when in fact they're not the victims at all. Very little. So so this is how they operate, and this is how they think. They're very sneaky, very, very vindictive. If you've got somebody on your hands who is envious of you, it's going to be much worse. The smear will be much worse, because there's a root of envy there, and they will be jealous. They'll be jealous of you in some way. Therefore, the smear will be even worse, okay? Smearing can ruin people's hearts, minds, lives. But if you have somebody who who you have inflicted a narcissistic injury to, who's smearing you or feels threatened by you because you know something. And then you have somebody who's envious of you as well. And then you have somebody who's thinking things that aren't right. I mean, it can be a horrible ordeal for somebody to go through, especially if they're dealing with a family group that has cluster B personality type disorders, like the covert narcissist who pretends to be the codependent, the malignant narcissist, sociopathic personalities, antisocial, whatever you're dealing with. If you're dealing, and I know some of you watching have dealt with this, it feels like, well, who on earth would have to deal with that many cluster B personality disorders at once? Well, it does happen because I think oftentimes these people are in family groups, or they kind of attract each other, so they're together in a group. So you can have one sociopath saying something and then the other one will come and back them up. So that then you have two disordered people against you, which can create a very, very toxic environment for the target or the victim, because they isolate that person through a smear by portraying that person as dangerous and saying all these other things about the person that are not true. While standing up for yourself is the right thing to do, toxic people simply don't believe you have any right to refuse their mistreatment, and they will set out to punish you for having any opinions that differ from theirs. So they don't feel they can say things, they can paint you in a horrible light, they can throw out everything you did before people and be like, she did, but you're not allowed to talk about how they mistreated you, because if you do, then they throw a tantrum and they get angry and they say, well, that's not what happened, and so forth like this, because they can't ever acknowledge that they did anything wrong. So you're not playing on too fair level, level grounds here. It's one person gets dumped on completely and smeared, and the other person or party gets away with everything because they're not going to admit any wrongdoing, and they're going to twist everything. And they're going to portray their victim or a target as having motives that that person never had, or just painting. What they do is they take somebody's personality, their target, their victim, the person that they want to destroy, and they flip their personality upside down. They're projecting all of their traits onto you, the narcissist is. So if the narcissist is manipulative, the narcissist is a pathological liar with no conscience, the narcissist, whatever qualities he or she has, they will project onto their target or victim in order to excuse themselves, and they'll actually take that person's basic personality and flip them upside down. So then you have a very smeared person, and anyone that looks at that person is going to think that they are the Antichrist with three horns walking around, that they're this evil, horrible person who had all these motives that he or she probably never had, probably far from it, They're going to flip, they're never going to come to you and try to understand your point of view. That's another thing you can tell when you're dealing with a narcissist or a toxic personality in general. They don't really want to understand your point of view or your feelings. That is part of their power play, because if they actually sat down with you and had a conversation and you were able to explain yourself to them, then they would lose some of their power, and they enjoy the power play. They enjoy sitting as judge and jury over you, their target and their victim. They know it makes you uncomfortable. They know they've got you where they want you, where you feel paralyzed by all the slander and everything. It's actually paralyzing to be falsely accused. It's almost like, a shock has been through your body. So they're going to punish you for having any opinion different than theirs. Virtually all smear campaigners can be counted on to have traits of cluster B personality disorders. Narcissists and sociopaths are among the most I can't read this word. Basically, they launch very harsh smear campaigns. Also histrionic people, and borderline people. Not surprisingly, these 4 disorders are classified as highly erratic, high conflict personality disorders. This is a little bit about the smear campaign tactics, and just before I say that, I just want to say in order to have a smear campaign, you have to have 3 different parties involved: the narcissist, the person being smeared, the target or the victim, and then the narcissist listeners, or the party, the audience to which the people who are going to be influenced by the smear campaign. And the targets of a smear campaign are usually someone that the narcissist views as a troublemaker, somebody the narcissist views as a threat or knows something about the narcissist that the narcissist doesn't want revealed. It could be somebody who this target of a smear campaign could be just somebody who no longer serves as a source of supply for the narcissist, is no longer feeding his or her ego. And there's other reasons that the narcissist smears people, but those are the 2 I've seen a lot of, I've heard a lot of. To discredit and isolate the victim, the narcissist will play the victim and or hero and exaggerate and manipulate. They manufacture fear in their victim. Their victim will feel like they're walking on eggshells around the narcissist, and they don't want to upset them. They will want to go along with what the narcissist is saying, partially because they're so afraid of the narcissist's backlash on them. And what the narcissist might do in order to win, it's all about winning to the narcissist, which is usually very, very distressing to the victim of a smear campaign, because most people aren't about winning. Well, there are some people, definitely, but usually targets of smear campaigns are not. They could be anyone. It could be anyone, but I'm more of an empath or a people pleaser. I tend to be. And this just really kind of, the whole I have to win thing kind of just surprised me. I wasn't prepared for that. But that's how they think. They label the victim as inferior, to hurt the victim for spite. The difficulty with saying no to toxic people is that they are already hazardous, okay? After all, if they weren't toxic, you wouldn't have had to say no to them in the first place. Most abusers simply want what they want and will not be denied without unleashing a torrent of phony martyrdom and vicious slander all about you and how you are the abuser. Their story will be warped, slanted, and twisted until there's not one atom of truth left in it. They're going to play like they are the martyr, and they are going to say that their target is the abuser. I did a video on reactive abuse where I explain this, where when somebody is being psychologically abused over a period of time, when somebody's being psychologically abused over a period of time through gaslighting, baiting and bashing, word salad games, circular conversations, shaming, threatening, and all that, that person may in fact snap. Okay, and that person will start yelling and screaming. The narcissist then turns around and uses that as evidence against their victim for being the unstable one, the crazy one, and the one who's abusing them. But see, your reaction to their abuse did not hurt them. Your reaction to their abuse did not hurt them. You're screaming, you're yelling, it didn't hurt them. You actually gave them exactly what they wanted. They were super happy you flipped out, because they're going to use it against you in their smear campaign that they launch against you. And they're going to say you're the abuser, and their listeners will feel sorry for them. This is what they do, okay? Lies will be sprinkled in order to try making their audience fear, prejudge, and rebuke you for the supposed evil you've perpetrated against this innocent lamb or a vulnerable, well-respected person. You didn't ask for your boundaries to be respected or for the truth. You didn't ask for openness. You are a vicious animal who attacked them, and you've supposedly attacked others, so everyone needs to be careful of you if they want to be safe. So they're going to say you're a vicious animal who attacked them, and you've supposedly attacked others, so everyone needs to be careful of you if they want to be safe. This is what cluster B type personality disorders portray the victim and the target as: an unsafe, untrustworthy person, somebody who is dangerous, and they're going to spread this to other people so that everyone will be afraid of you and not trust you. And this is how they launch their smear campaign. Everyone should stand up on behalf of this good person by shutting you out and standing up against your abuse. So that's how they're gonna portray themselves as having done nothing wrong. You're the abuser, you're the one who overstepped, you're the one who blah, 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 blah. And therefore you need to be shut out, you need to be shunned, and people need to be standing up for the abuse that was launched on them, when in fact, they are the abusers. They are the ones who were psychologically abusing another person and then went and launched a smear campaign against them. For whatever reasons they do this, they do it, and then they justify themselves and make it seem like it's not a big deal. You must be marginalized and cut off from the pack so that you'll be left feeling weak and alone. It is payback. The smear campaigner exacts for the fact that you got in their way. They want you to feel sorry you were ever born, and they know how much it will hurt you to be shunned and turned against, and how powerless you will feel without the assistance of others. The smear campaigner must see to it that anyone they are telling these lies to is kept sweet, and they will play the good one, the nice, helpful one, the innocent one who is only trying to warn people of how secretly evil you supposedly are when nobody is looking. They're doing their coworkers, the family, or society, or a church, or their group of people a grand favor by bravely speaking out against your misdeeds and righting a wrong. They cleverly play the friendly, everyday good person who is upstanding, supportive, likable, noble, just like the people they're trying to reel in. They would never do anything wrong or unlikable. Not them. They're too above that, you know. So they're going to try to keep the people in their charm circle sweet, and they're going to portray a certain image to these people, and they're going to portray you as a monster, which you probably aren't, and they're going to do everything in their power to make you look like the bad one completely. They're going to spin a false narrative against the victim. And unless you are extremely perceptive about what's going on, you're not going to be able to pick up on it. And people will get sucked into it if they hear it, because it just sounds so shocking, and the people telling it are going to be so convincing, because they may be lying to themselves partly. I think sometimes the narcissist lies to himself or herself in order to justify their behaviors and excuse what they have done wrong. They may minimize and they may apologize a little bit, like we shouldn't have maybe done that, but we needed to do it for this reason, you know. They'll minimize and downplay their part, okay? The smear campaigner needs to make their audience think they are perfectly innocent. They are a perfectly innocent person who was shockingly blindsided by your supposed evil, unreasonable, I can't read this word, unreasonability, over-emotionality, or mental instability. Smear campaigners' goals are to create mistrust of you, fear of you, and condemnation of you. Smear campaigners' goals are to create mistrust of you, fear of you, and condemnation of you. If they think their audience may not swallow the lie that they have done absolutely nothing to contribute to the matter, they may admit they have done something very minor, but that your response is so outrageously unreasonable or completely incompetent. Popular lies of the smear campaigner include statements and insinuations that you are mentally ill, incompetent, untrustworthy, and unreasonable. The smear campaigner does this so that if your legitimate upset shows, the observer will attribute it to irrationality, ill intent, or instability, and not to your normal upset at having been badly mistreated or psychologically abused. Okay, and in the most cases of people who have been psychologically abused by a narcissist or narcissistic group, family group, and then there's a smear campaign launched against them, most oftentimes victims will start displaying symptoms of narcissistic victim syndrome, which is the symptoms are confusion, fogginess, second-guessing yourself, questioning yourself, depression, insomnia, not eating, losing lots of weight, gaining lots of weight, getting sick, being severely depressed, you may be suicidal, okay? Most people who use smear campaigns have several things in common. The smear campaigner must work to make people believe them. They will put on a good face, agree with their listeners, and feign integrity and kindness, carefully tending to his or her image as an innocent and upstanding whistleblower who is bravely speaking up against evil is a necessary part of the smear campaigner's plan. They're going to say, an evil has been done, and they're going to wage war against the target, even though the target's probably not guilty of what's being said or something much more minor. Whether smear campaigners claim to be your victim or just a conscientious bystander, or both, they know that being seen as the good one fools the most people possible. So they're going to try to be portraying themselves as the good one, the one who doesn't gossip, the one who doesn't, they're going to be, they're going to portray themselves a certain way to their charmed circle, but they're not going to tell about all the psychological abuse against the victim and the true narrative. They're not going to tell the truth. They're going to lie, use exaggerations, partial truths, so forth, This is a righteous and brave warrior of truth. This is how they'll tell them. This is what they're going to tell themselves. Not someone who is having a tantrum because you got in their way when they were doing something wrong, or that they lied, or they're lying, or you actually stood up to them. This is not a cowardly tyrant who is seething with revenge. Certainly not. This is just a decent person who is bravely trying to help others by spreading the word to be careful and avoid a monster of an abuser. You. Smear campaigners may claim that they don't want to say anything bad about anyone, and that it's not like them, but they just have to say something about you in order to help good people snuff out your supposed evil. So this is listen, I really don't want to say anything bad, but just so you know, they're going to say this kind of stuff. They must break with their usual humility, humble moral humility, in order to step up and save the decent person of the world by finally exposing the truth about you that nobody has ever known. Oh, wow, this person is an awful, horrible person, and we're going to go after her, and we're going to expose her because the world doesn't know about this, or, whomever, whatever group you're in, and we're going to expose this person. Of course, it's not the truth. It's a smear campaign. But most everybody wants to support a person who has been hurt by someone abusive and will rush to their defense. So that's the role the smear campaigner often plays. They play the abused one. They'll say they've been traumatized. The good and innocent victim hero. Smear campaigners play on the sympathies of others using people's empathy to gain social leverage against their victims. Most smear campaigners are highly narcissistic, and narcissists cannot ever be expected to apologize, come clean, or admit any wrongdoing, even if caught red-handed in their lies. Oh, this is very true, okay? They don't really ever apologize for anything, but you will be apologizing constantly. And this is, I think, why some people develop narcissistic victim syndrome, is that they feel so shamed and they're constantly apologizing and saying sorry, while their abusers sit there as up on their thrones as their judge and jury, and they never apologize. They never admit any wrongdoing or come clean about their part. Even if you say, listen, I heard this, or this was actually, I saw this, they're gonna lie if they can get away with it. They truly believe in their own way that a smear campaign is the right thing to do to you, because you have opposed them. You have not gone along with them. You have stood up to them. You have finally said, you know what, this isn't what happened. This is what happened. And they are going to be mad at you, because if you have covered up for a narcissist, or, as some people do, they will cover for the narcissist when they're still under the narcissist's power, and they're still, maybe they've developed Stockholm syndrome, or they're under the narcissist's power. You may cover for the narcissist at one point, but later on, if you say, I covered for them, and you say, this is what happened really, they are going to be angry at you, and they may not show their anger to their inner circle, but they will be so angry at you that they will allow a false narrative to come out, a smear campaign on you, and they won't correct it because they believe that you deserve it. And you should have known better. Okay, they truly believe that the smear campaign is the right thing to you because you have opposed them, and you should have known better than to do such an unthinkable thing. So it's simply all your fault. They're smearing you anyhow. They're teaching you a lesson. Agree with whatever they want, or else if you don't agree with them, this is coming. If you don't agree with them, I'm blowing this whole thing up. They'll say things like that, you better go along with what I'm saying, or I'm blowing this up, and I'm going to have my flying monkeys come out at you, and they're going to tear you apart. So you asked for it, and they're teaching you better. You asked for this, they're going to say. Smear campaigners are like spoiled playground bullies who kick another child when the teacher's back is turned, just because the child doesn't give them whatever they want. They cannot be made to empathize, and they are well practiced in their abusive games because they've been playing them all their lives. If you should become the subject of a smear campaign, you may find the following practices to be helpful in reducing or eliminating the damage. Immediately discontinue speaking to the smear campaigner. If you can't possibly do this, limit the amount of time that you have to interact with them. Abusers lie and manipulate. I'm going to just skim down here. 2, if possible, put things in writing. 3, know the lay of the law of the land and act accordingly. Okay, so just as a summary, smear campaigns are typically conducted against people who have stood up against some form of unfairness, abuse, or entitlement. Narcissists are highly active smear campaigners, and those with other high conflict cluster B personality disorders. A smear campaign involves lies, exaggerations, and a cultivation of mistrust towards the victim. Okay, so you can have lies, exaggeration, and mistrust. Smear campaigners insinuate that the victim is mentally ill, unreasonable, incompetent, untrustworthy, or abusive. Smear campaigners typically play on the sensibilities of others, using people's empathies and morals to turn people against their victims, most often for having done nothing more than disagree with the smearer. A smear campaigner prefers to make others think that they are the good people who are rightfully standing up against the victim's supposed immorality or abuse. Smear campaigners play the victim, the hero, or both. Smear campaigners try to ostracize their victims and make them feel alone, unpopular, and unsupported by others. Excuse me. Smear campaigners enjoy the feeling of having gotten back at their victims and believe it is completely justifiable, even fun, to mistreat someone for having an opinion that is different from their opinion. And they will never correct the narrative. Smear campaigners do not acknowledge the wrong they do and cannot typically be expected to genuinely confess or apologize, even after they've been proven liars. Okay? They will lie, and they'll cover up and they will justify themselves. This is why you cannot often reconcile with narcissists, because of all the lying. Thank you for tuning into my channel. Have a good day.